I've been cleaning out a bunch of stuff, getting ready for the baby to come, which means needing a lot of this computer stuff to move, and needed a reason to move some hardware around. And I've had some issues with my little retro room streaming PC that could over here, and decided I wanted to change it up. So I wanted to build something with my other Threadripper processor, the 3960X that we removed from my workstation build, and build the most imbalanced, ridiculous streaming PC that basically no one should buy. And we did it live on Twitch. And that's what this video is about. We're gonna get into it after a word from this video sponsor, Owned. Owned is the place to go when you're tired of trying to make your own graphics and not being happy with how they turn out, or not being happy with your customization option for certain graphics. And you really want your stream to stand out from the pack and to look pretty great, and to have a social media presence that matches it as well. Head over to eposvox.gg/OWN3D to get your own custom set of graphics, and check it out today. So this is the 80s themed, neon looking retro streaming rig I built for my retro room, my retro streaming setup, in summer of last year. It's got an 8700K, a 1070 or 1070 Ti mini, pretty decent little machine. And actually I commented on stream at how happy I was with it as just a little power box. But I've had some issues on the software side getting some render lag sorted, and there's not enough available, bus bandwidth for me to add a bunch of USB devices for extra cameras and webcams and things like that. And I end up introducing more render lag or general issues when I try to add all the different multicam stuff I want to do in that room. This is part of the reason I'm swapping out computers. For whatever reason, this computer just kicks up render lag, even for a 30 FPS stream, for no apparent reason. It can't maintain 30 FPS right now. There's nothing happening on the computer. Are we overheating? Is it a temperature thing? Can I pull that up? CPU is not overheating. I don't have a GPU thing. So between that and the fact that I have another use I want to use this for, and I have some other computer hardware I need to get out of my general space and put into that room to use, we're upgrading it to a new build. This new streaming PC is going to be the most imbalanced and ridiculous streaming PC that I'd never recommend anyone build, and yet at the same time, maybe I do. This is going to have the AMD Threadripper 3960X. This has 24 cores, 48 threads of processing power. It'll be able to do 1080p 60 at slow on any game pretty much, and especially since I have it coming in, but it also has 64 PCIe lanes, so I can throw in multiple capture cards. And we're gonna talk about the pitfalls and the things to consider when it comes to multiple capture cards, since I've run into them with this original rig. It's gonna have 64 gigs of RAM, Corsair Dominator RAM, part of the Threadripper press kit, as well as the MSI Creator TRX 40 motherboard, which again, also came with the press kit. Got a couple NVMe drives we're throwing in there, and then we're going with at least 2, if not 3, AverMedia Live Gamer 4K capture cards. These have been kind of controversial as to whether or not they are actually supported in multitudes. So we're starting with 2 since I got confirmation that that does work with the driver. I'm gonna throw in a third as well, and we're gonna see if we can make that work. But I'm not sure yet. I'll get to that in the conclusion. If not, the third capture card will be my Blackmagic Decklink Mini Recorder 4K capture card, which only does 4K 30, but it also does 1080p 60, and it's fine for that room where I'd move in 1080p 60 streaming. But where this build gets really ridiculous is the graphics card choice. And it's apparently not in this box, but for this, my friends, we're using the GeForce GTX 1650 Super. We're throwing a 24 core Threadripper with a 1650 Super. That's what we're doing. Yes, the NVIDIA GTX 1650 Super is the cheapest graphics card next to the 1660, depending on which one you can get cheaper. The cheapest entry-level MSRP graphics card that you can get that has the new Turing-based NVIDIA NVENC H.264 encoder and H.265 encoder, which is about H.264 is about 15% more bitrate efficient than the Pascal, previous generation NVENC cards, and 25% more bitrate efficient for H.265, which is pretty crazy. So with this rig, I'll be able to do 1080p 60 slow on X264 on the processor without breaking a sweat, but I'll also be able to do crazy things like 8K 30 in HEVC with the graphics card as well. So I have lots of flexibility and possibilities with encoding on here. And since this is purely going to be a streaming and video encoding rig, like if that's all you're doing, you don't need a lot of actual graphical horsepower. Something like the 1650 Super is really all the power that you're gonna need. So we're gonna get this thing built and set up and check it out. There we go. Cool, it works. It works. $64 gigs, 24 threads, 3.8 megabytes per second, or 3.8 gigahertz. It works. Oh, there's the fan cable's back there. God dang it. All right, that's fine. We're gonna turn this off. The fan cable is squeezed between the fan and the radiator somehow. I had no idea that was there. No wonder I had such a hard time screwing that fan in. Thank you for the follow, Raphael GHS. And here behind me we have it in my Be Quiet Dark Base 900 case, which I've used. It's tried and true. I know it works. I know it can stay pretty quiet. We've got the NZXT Kraken X62 280mm AIO on this thing. It doesn't actually, the code plate doesn't cover the full IHS of the processor, but this is what AMD actually sent out in their press kits for Threadripper. They were confident enough in its cooling. As long as you replace the thermal paste that it came off of, or came with, it's fine. Should be keeping it totally cool. And if you want an upgrade, they have the new 360mm one that has a full LED or LCD screen in the actual pump, which I covered with Wendell. I have a link to that in the video description down below. But currently we've got 2 of the AverMedia cards going with that 1650 Super. I'm gonna get messing with it and then I'll add in a note at the end of the video whether or not I get 3 working. But I did want to talk about some of the considerations that you have to keep in mind when it comes to using multiple capture cards in a streaming computer, because the issue that you run into is throughput and bandwidth. And these are things that you can't always measure with numbers. First and foremost, with numbers, you can measure your PCIe lanes. Do you have the available PCIe lanes and bandwidth for multiple capture cards? Because on consumer platforms, you usually only have 16 lanes or so, 4 more to the chipset, and then you're splitting up your graphics card into X8 mode, and you can only fit it in certain cards. And so people will go put a X8 capture card in an X4 slot and it doesn't work, or it runs really weird and they can't figure out why. And so for multiple capture cards where you have a console input or a gaming PC input or cameras, and I have multiple cameras, multiple console inputs, all going into this at one time, you need a lot of PCIe bandwidth. So again, this has 64 lanes. I have X16 for the graphics card, X16 on one of the slots, and then 2 X8 slots. And so these are only X4 capture cards, so that's fine. I'm not using up all the total lanes, we're good to go. But on a consumer platform, like that 8700K is on, or even X570, you're gonna run out of lanes before you can really expand that much. And that is also shared with some of your USB bandwidth. There is a metric crap ton of USB ports on this motherboard, and they're all USB 3 or 3.1 or 3.2. There's 5 gigabit, 10 gigabit, and 20 gigabit, all plenty fast enough for multiple capture cards, for the USB cam links that I'll have to add and the extra, USB webcams and things like that. So the USB chipsets on here will do a much better job of actually juggling and managing all of those USB devices compared to a lower end consumer board. And so you have to really balance and manage what all you have connected, because on some, especially the consumer chipsets, you are going to run out into weird issues. It may work at first, but then you're gonna run into issues of one's gonna be at a weird low frame rate, or it's gonna disconnect at random, or it's just gonna randomly start dropping frames and weird things like that that you don't really know how to solve because there isn't hard notifications about some of this stuff. Something else you need to consider as well is whether the drivers for your specific capture card or device actually support multiple in one system. With some webcams like the C920, you can connect theoretically up to 4 on one system. I know with the older C910s, I had 4 running on one broadcast that I used for a local radio station. But sometimes the drivers won't actually recognize more than the first 1 or 2, and even if they do, especially with those Logitech webcams, you're gonna start running into issues where the settings that you saved at one point start applying to the other webcam, and it kind of confuses which ones are set up. And then certain capture cards just do not allow you to really manage multiple at the same time. And then you have even more advanced stuff, like some of the higher end Magewell stuff have individual jumpers. So if you do run into driver conflicts, you have jumpers that identifies, this is capture card 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, so that it always knows it's in the right spot. With the Live Gamer 4K, it's actually been a kind of controversial thing of they have given contradicting statements regarding whether multiple is supported. It appears to not be a driver limitation. At least 2 is supported in the box, but I was told they were having issues capturing 4K 60 from both at one time. And I think that is just a limitation of bandwidth. And so that's why I wanted to hook it up here, but you will see them show up as -1, -2, and ideally -3, but we will see moving forward. That is why we went with this ridiculous platform here, as I'm doing multicam and a bunch of inputs at once, and I wanted as much raw throughput to manage as possible, and you need HEDT for all of those lanes and all of those USB ports.
Just wanted to add a quick note here in case you missed my tweet. I was in fact able to get all 3 Live Gamer 4K capture cards working on the same system. They do show up as -1, -2, -3. The driver installer never gave me any trouble, and they all show up and seem to work fine in OBS Studio with 4K 60 inputs, although typically I'm not going to be running all 3 with 4K inputs. So currently I have 2 cameras and 1 set of consoles connected via HDMI switcher running on the 3. That way I don't have to use as many USB capture cards, but I may expand as needed.
Just wanted to put another, it's been a while since I've done a PC build like this. Just wanted to do it and get some Twitch streams going. If you want to catch more streams like that, follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/EposVox. Hit me up on Twitter as well. And I'll see you on the next one. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more tech education. I'll have a couple product links in the video description, but otherwise, happy streaming.